The Lone Ranger did leave Mutual and move over to the ABC Blue Network during 1942, and Mutual found itself in need of a network children's show, and so the series came back, this time called Adventures of Superman. Began on Mutual on August 31st, 1942, as a 5 times a week, 15-minute show. And Kellogg's began its sponsorship in January of 1943. And that particular 15-minute series, there were 1,592 programs, and about 815 of these are in circulation. And when the show returned on the full Mutual network, it had a new introduction, which some of you, I think, are going to recognize instantly.
Superman, strange visitor from another world, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Yes, now that we were at war, the American way became part of the introduction there. That announcer, by the way, was a gentleman named George Lowther, who would later go on to write the first Superman novel in 1943.
And many of the scripts.
Yes, indeed. And so that went on. And actually, a lot of the mythology that we associate with Superman originated with the radio series. A lot of the characters did. Perry White was the editor on the radio series when it was George Taylor in the comic books. Jimmy Olsen came about on the radio series in 1940. Inspector Henderson was a radio series creation. And Superman's greatest weakness, kryptonite, originated on radio in 1943 and did not appear in comic books until, I believe, 1949. So that's about as intense as it gets. On radio, of course, in addition to all of these things, the story goes, I haven't been able to verify it, but the story goes that kryptonite was created so that Superman could be weakened and Bud Collyer could take a vacation. They only needed somebody to moan. I've heard there's only one episode surviving of the first kryptonite story, and it's like right in the middle of the arc, and he's there. So I'm not exactly sure if that's true or not, but until the whole series becomes that particular story arc becomes available in full, we won't really know for sure. But that's the myth anyway. Another thing that happened on radio was that, and that helped literally give Bud Collyer a break, is that Batman and Robin would appear and in some of the stories. Here's an example of Batman and Robin trapped with Jimmy Olsen in a subterranean water tank that is underneath a fun house in an amusement park. Jimmy Olsen is passed out. Batman and Robin are dealing with the cold. And Superman, still dressed as Clark Kent, is looking for him. And here's Jackson Beck setting up this situation.
As Batman, Robin, and Jimmy Olsen face death in a tank of ice water under the Hall of Mirrors, Clark Kent, his X-ray vision unable to penetrate the lead backing of the mirror's floor, scratched a mark at the approximate spot where Batman disappeared. Then, searching 50 feet in one direction through the winding mirrored maze, he returned to the mark and searched 50 feet in the other direction. Now he has returned again to the mark.
Batman was right behind me when he disappeared. Couldn't have been hit on the head and dragged away. I would have seen it. And I made sure there are no false corridors around here. Wait a minute. There's only one explanation. He must have dropped through a trap door. Now, there's nobody around, so off with these clothes. Gotta get Witches out below shouting for help. This looks like it's help for
Superman. There we are, all set. Now to break through this pretty mirrored floor. I hate to do it, but whoever owns this place must be in on this deal, so here goes. of this arm with you, Robert. Okay, hang on, Batman.
Right. Let her rip.
Time to waste. We can go right through the wall of this basement. Stand on my gate now. Here goes. Away! Leaping from the dark concrete tank with Jimmy and Robin cradled in his arms and Batman clinging to his cape, Superman crashes through the wall of the basement and streaks for the medical aid station.
Yeah. Anybody who knows old-time radio recognize the voice of the actor playing Batman? That is exactly right. That's Stacey Harris. If you've seen him as the bad guy on several Dragnet episodes, you'd be amazed that he was the very first Batman. Another actor took over the role the next time. The Caped Crusader and his youthful ward appeared on the radio show. Superman was going along at a good clip. They had a kryptonite storyline that evolved into a man who was able to split the atoms in kryptonite to find a substance more deadly than uranium and create an atom man. That story arc ran for almost, about 5-6 months. And that was followed by Batman and Robin helping Superman track down additional elements of kryptonite. The whole thing went for almost about a year. And after that, how do you top something that spectacular? Well, this being post-World War II, all the information about Hitler's Germany had come to light and the persecution of the Jews. And Maxwell, in association with his head writer, a man by the name of Ben Peter Friedman, came up with a storyline where Superman has to confront intolerance in the form of a hate mongers organization. And this storyline began in April of 1946 and ran until toward the end of May. And by the first week of May, the show became #1. The storyline received a great deal of favorable publicity, a lot of favorable write-ups from radio critics. Listened to it, and they were surprised and delighted at the turn that the series had taken. And it became the #1 juvenile show for a time, beginning in May of 1946. The conclusion of the hate monger story from May 20th is probably my favorite episode of the radio series. It's all Superman all the way through. He's just marvelous. And here is the climax of that episode. Oh, I should mention the organ. You're hearing an organ now. To start this storyline on April 16th is when they introduced music to the series. Prior to that, it had all been dialogue and sound effects.
Our scene is now Inspector Henderson's office at police headquarters. Crowded into the room are the 10 boys who were members of the juvenile gang working for the Guardians of America. Frank Hill and his 2 henchmen, recovered from the Superman sleep treatment. Henderson and 3 of his police captains, Jimmy Olsen and Superman himself. Standing at one end of the room, holding some papers in his hand, Superman begins talking. Marks, I want you to step forward. Since you were the leader of this gang, you can speak for all of them. Come on. All right. That man standing over there, Marks, the man who calls himself Frank Hill, he was the one who gave you your orders, wasn't he? I don't know. You never saw him because he talked to you from behind the curtain, but you heard him speak. Now, you just heard his voice again. Do you recognize it? I don't know. All right. We'll tackle it another way. Have you any brothers, Marks? Yeah, 1. How old is your brother? 26. Was he in the Army during the war? No, in the Navy. Where is he now? In a hospital. He lost a leg. Let's see. Any of you other boys have brothers or fathers in the Army or Navy? Raise your hands if you did. You in the green shirt.
My father got killed in the Army.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, the rest of you put your hands down. We've got enough. The only reason I asked you whether you had brothers or fathers fighting in the war was to prove something to you. These papers I'm holding in my hand were taken out of the safe in Frank Hill's office.